This video is going to need some context. So if you don't know, my name is Francis, and I used to be a Catholic priest, a part of a traditional community, which means that we had the Mass in Latin. We followed the old way of doing things before the changes that happened in the church around the 60s. It's very complicated, and I don't want to go into it. And there's a lot of things that I criticize about the community that I came from. And if you would like to see that video, I have two parts. I'll leave the first one up here. So a few years ago, I decided to write a book. I think that most of the people, especially my superiors, would like me to just go off into hiding and not talk. But I started writing a journal about my experiences, and then I realized that I have a book. And that book is purposely meant for people who not only live in that community, but specifically like me, they are experiencing homosexual feelings and they are forced to try and change themselves. It's almost like a conversion therapy without going to conversion therapy. You deny who you are in order to fit in with the community. So I wrote my book, and then I thought, before I publish my book, I have to start some sort of platform. I have to have people that are interested. So I went on social media, and that's when all the juicy stuff started happening right away. This so-called news agency that is called Church Militant, which is a very interesting name, they found out about my story within a few weeks after starting my social media. They're part of the same traditional Catholic world. They're not a part of the same community. In fact, one of their goals is to attack that community that I was a part of. So when they found out that I had left, they probably thought that they would find some juicy info. I was part of the ranks. I was a priest. So I could probably give them information that could help fuel their attacks. And especially when they found out that I was now an openly gay person, they thought, perfect. Because one of their main attacks towards the community that I was a part of is abuse of minors by the priests. And they make a connection between those people who are predators and homosexuals being allowed to become priests. One of the journalists, Miss Christine Niles, she came to me in a message that I will put up here. She asked me questions that were obviously leading questions. They wanted me to say that, it's not your fault. It's the superior's fault that allowed you, a poor homosexual man, to go through to become a priest. Isn't that right? Didn't the priest know that you were homosexual and they let you go anyway? She never mentioned that she was a journalist. She never mentioned her intentions. I had people asking me questions left and right about more personal things that they were going through in their lives. And I was messaging with them, and then I just get this random person, and in my head I thought, that's a very interesting question to ask me. And then I looked on her page and realized who she was and who she worked for. Church Militant. And of course at that point I had practically zero trust for people in general, but specifically people that were a part of that world, the traditional Catholic world. I declined to respond. And she immediately said that I was defending my community. Whatever, I brushed it off. A few months later, Miss Christine Niles posted this on her social medias. what a great picture. I love how tabloid-like articles come out where you see somebody, like a celebrity, picking their nose, and they're like, oh, perfect, I'm gonna choose that one. That's how I felt when I saw this picture. Not only was my friend, who was also a part of that picture, very annoyed, but I was too, because that was from a while ago. She had to go through my photos to find that specific photo. It's something that we never do. We never go out and have drinks, but it's just to introduce my person, introduce my character in her own play. And that was the image that she chose. Very interesting. I see you. I'm not going to specifically talk about those posts because Church Militant came out with a video where I was the star. They had bits and pieces from what I had posted on my own personal social media, and they filled in the rest of the story with what they wanted. I waited until now because I didn't have the reach that I had before. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have the capacity of responding at the same way that they talked about me. Looking at the YouTube page, the video has over 60,000 views. Everything that she asked me in that initial contact that I declined to answer, in this video, Michael Voris, another character, uses the questions and my non-response as the truth. Don't be afraid to stand up to people who talk bad about you. It's okay. The only way that I knew that this video existed was because someone came to me and told me about it. They never told me that they were going to make this video. They never put my name to it, but they said my name a lot during the video, and they used my pictures, and they used my story to their ends. It's not right. It's not the type of action that I would expect from a Catholic news agency. Maybe some modern media would do something like that, of course. But it just goes to show you the environment that I grew up in. And if you just look through tweets, if you look through how they interact with people, you get more and more a feel of some of the interactions that I had to deal with inside that community. Not everybody. I know that people like to take my statements and to say that I'm applying it to everyone. But it did exist, and I put up with it for so long. And not anymore. So stand up to your bullies. Don't feel like you have to be silenced in order to fit in. That's what it's all about in those types of communities. Not standing out, not being a problem, not causing a rift. Just be easy, just be the same, just conform, and everything will be easier in your life. You won't have any problems. Just do what everyone else is doing. Just do that and you'll be fine. That's the type of message that people are taking in by living in those types of communities. And most people just stay silent. So let's watch this dang video.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. The breakaway Catholic group, the SSPX, has a sex abuse issue, a cover-up issue, as well as a homosexuality issue, all within their ranks.
So we're already starting off with what their purpose is of this video. I've never mentioned the name of my congregation, so surprise! I'm sure there's a lot of people who already know. But they are saying that there's a problem of all of these things. Although I'm just one person, being a seminarian, it was not something that was promoted, that was allowed. Maybe in the past, maybe before my time, maybe after my time, but definitely not during the time that I was there. But they are saying that there are a lot of abusers in the ranks of the priests. That has been their main objective, just to be a whistleblower against my old congregation. So we're just going to skip ahead to where Michael Voris speaks about moi. It's important to mention that I am not speaking against what they're saying specifically against my congregation. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't look into and investigate all of the facts, but it does put into question their intention and their sources, as we'll see. I don't believe them. I just don't believe them. The reason is how they treated me, how they treated my story. And it really puts into question all of their investigative integrity. But I'm not speaking against anything else of what they've said, except what they say specifically about me. That's important to remember.
And speaking of homosexuality, it has now come to light that some men are being ordained for the SSPX who were known to be homosexual while they were in seminary, advanced knowledge of it. While this may not come as a surprise in the Church of Nice, where being homosexual is practically a requirement to be ordained, it seems, in the SSPX, or Eternal Rome, there is the claim among leadership that no homosexual men are to be ordained. Well, that's a lie.
Okay, so they're claiming that people knew, well, we'll see exactly what they say, but the premise is that homosexuals, known homosexuals, which means people who act upon their feelings and their attractions, are being allowed to be ordained. I'm not talking about if that's right or good or bad. I'm just saying that's the premise that they say. That in my community, that it was something that was allowed. They knew about my homosexuality and they allowed it. And that's their secret mission, to do that. And it's funny because the real story is a lot worse than that. The real story is of a person who was dealing with homosexual attractions and was constantly feeling less than everyone else, who was in an environment, a heterosexual environment, where I didn't feel like I was going to ever be at the same level as anyone else. The whole environment was very suppressive. And here I am trying to fit in, trying to be normal with all of these other people, and trying with all of my strength to even get rid of the thoughts of homosexuality, even seeing someone and feeling that attraction. I was focusing on those instantaneous reactions and trying not to act upon them. And they're here saying that I was just going around and, well, we'll see exactly what they say.
In 2016, a young man by the name of Francis Palmquist was ordained for the SSPX. His training and formation had taken place at St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary, which at the time was located in Winona, Minnesota. Palmquist's seminary rector was Father Yves Leroux. Church Militant has spoken with a seminarian who went to school with Palmquist and was hit on by Palmquist once.
Okay, so here we go. Church Militant has spoken with a former seminarian who said that he was hit on by me. Are we going to get a name? Of course not. This is the fact that is at the foundation of their whole idea here. They're believing some anonymous former seminarian that I would hit on. If they only knew how much I was trying to eradicate those feelings from myself. If they only knew.
Likewise, that seminarian knew of multiple complaints from others about Palmquist that were made to the rector, Leroux. Palmquist went on to be ordained, as we said, in 2016 and was assigned to Mexico, where he underwent a crisis about a year later. An SSPX priest, he began a romantic relationship with a local guy and eventually left the society and the priesthood to live an openly gay life. He now runs a tattoo parlor in Guadalajara and lives with his Mexican boyfriend.
I will explain exactly what that period of crisis was in my life, because they're right. There was a period of crisis because I wrote and I said that in my social media. So that's where they got that information. I did have a relationship with a Mexican here who was not at all a part of the church that I was a part of. It was a bad time. and I will explain it one day. So they got that right. I do live in Mexico still. I live in Guadalajara. That's another thing they got right. And they got right the year of my ordination, all of that. I do not live with my boyfriend. I do not have a tattoo parlor, although I wish I did. But those are just little details that they got wrong. It is forming an image that they want you to have about me. Very interesting.
On his own Facebook page, Palmquist freely admits that while in seminary, he confessed his struggles with homosexuality to his spiritual director. Yet, despite his struggles, despite the complaints, which were general knowledge, LaRue advanced him on for ordination, which precipitated a crisis in the young man's life and presumably still disturbs him on some level.
So it's very interesting. There's a few things. The first is they don't care. They don't care about the crisis. They say it like it probably disturbs him now, like poor me. Well, I was the one who made the decision to change my life. I'm doing better now because I did something about it. So thank you for your empty words, because I have not received anything of a message from Mr. Voris, who presumably, well, he's claimed that he too had homosexual feelings before. It's just interesting. I maybe would have expected maybe a simple note, a kind note, something, but too much to ask for. So thank you, but no, I'm doing okay. I did tell my spiritual director about my feelings, but just like anybody would, I'm sure the heterosexual seminarians who maybe had attractions to females, they had thoughts that they were dealing with in their head. And it was the same thing. I was trying to live a chaste life. I was trying to not act upon sexual thoughts or actions or anything, just like anybody else would. And that's how I treated it. I treated myself like any other person, and that's it. That was the extent of what he's saying. Unfortunately, because they're not focusing on the truth, or they're not seeing it, they don't want to. There is something behind this. There is a story that people should be focusing on, and that's what I want to focus on. The fact that what do homosexual men and women do with their lives in these communities, in communities where they're not allowed to act upon those things? If a heterosexual seminarian is having too many problems with his thoughts and he can't live a life without any sort of sexual experience, they send him home and he can get married. But what does the homosexual do? It makes things a lot more complicated, and that should be something that is focused upon. How these communities treat gay men and women, and what are they supposed to do?
Palmquist has a Facebook page, I Am Judas Project, and in a very telling revelation from just last month, says of his pain and struggles with same-sex attraction while in the SSPX seminary and afterward, quote, I remember waiting at least a month for a response from the head superior of my congregation. I went to him as a child to his father begging for help, and he was too busy to respond, closed quote.
Yeah, that was during the crisis that I had after I was already a priest. And I think that he believes that it was during the seminary. It doesn't matter. I don't really care. Once my book comes out, then people will see the timeline a lot clearer. I hope people see what they want to see, and that's something that I can't change. But that is true. That is how I felt.
There's no other way to characterize that than sad. What's more, Church Militant has been told by a reliable inside source that LaRue has said he would welcome him back to the society as a priest if he leaves his lifestyle.
That is a complete misrepresentation. So first of all, because of what I did, there's a penalty, canonical penalty, and I would not be able to function as a normal priest if I ever went back. Maybe I could go live my life in a monastery for the rest of my life, striking myself with a whip in order to make up for my innumerable sins, but I would never be able to just go back.
And let's be very clear, this story is not about that young man and his struggles with homosexuality, God help him. It's about the neglect for him from within the SSPX. Palmquist is a casualty as much as anything, a man who has the indelible mark of priesthood forever emblazoned on his soul now for eternity, now living in Mexico with a boyfriend and giving tattoos for a living. None of what LaRue did, of course, was criminal, but it was unethical and immoral.
All right, I've had enough of that. You get the idea. Imagine how it was for me waking up one morning and receiving so many messages from random people on Twitter telling me that there was this video about me, and then watching as the view count goes up and up and up. Imagine what that would be like. And I tell you that I spent maybe 4 or 5 days in bed, but God help me. It's not about me. No. One thing that is very important, and this is something that if you go to therapy, if you just face a problem in general, you have to look at the problem. You have to see what the problem really is. And only in seeing the reality can you find a solution. And that is exactly what I would like to do through my social media, my videos, is to present my story to you from my perception, things that I've been dealing with for the past few years and things that I've been reviewing, especially in writing my book. I will be criticizing certain individuals in my previous community, but not with anger, not with like a vengeful spirit. I understand that people can fail. People can be stupid. Looking at what really happened when I was in the seminary might actually give people a clear perception of what it's like to be a homosexual within the Catholic community and understand that it's nearly impossible. It's something that's very cruel and harsh to expect from people. After my grandmother died, I was feeling horrible. There was a seminarian who was very kind to me and helped me, comforted me, just a normal, good person, and I appreciated it. And we built a friendship. There was just a lot of just normal connection between guys. We got to know each other more, and there was a really good and wholesome connection. And the feelings, the attraction that I had slowly grew, the care that I had for this person. And it wasn't what I imagined some people thought, that it was something that was like this feeling where it was just I had all this sexual pressure. And no, it was a caring, it was wholesome, it was true, and it was mutual. Both of us felt that way. It only lasted a very, very short period of time, and we were both kind of swept away in the emotion. And the most that we ever did that was physical was one time he held my hand and gripped it really hard, like he wanted to take care of me. And there was also one time we were on a bunk bed, not at the seminary, for anyone who's asking. We were not at the seminary, but we were both seminarians. And he was on the top bunk, I was on the bottom bunk, and I couldn't sleep, and I was crying. It was within a few weeks of when my grandmother died, and it hit me really hard. And he came down and hugged me. That's it. That's the story. Well, that's all of the physical interaction that we had. When we came back to the seminary, we both decided to talk to our spiritual directors. Before we knew it, we were at that point, and we were both scared. And after speaking to our spiritual directors, it was a complete cutoff. We both decided, because we wanted to follow that world, we wanted to be good seminarians. We wanted to be good priests eventually. We cut it off completely. We didn't talk to each other afterwards. Is that the type of story that you expected after watching the video from Church Militant? I don't think so. And that's it. That's the only seminarian that I got to that point with. That was the only person in my life up to that point that I had gone that far with. It wasn't sexual at all. It was a very close friendship that started becoming physical, but just barely. And that's it. And that caused so much pain and internal conflict within me, because I had these feelings, these strong feelings of friendship. I wanted to be with this person and to be close to this person, but at the same time, I was suppressing that and I was pushing it down and I was trying to forget about it. I was even mean to that person in order to cause that break and fight against that attraction that I had within me that naturally and organically sprung up from getting close to someone. So I hope in my little way, I can cause people to think and give people who are in those situations, inside those communities, some strength, and for them to realize that it's okay if people are going to attack them from their community. It's okay. What's important is that you're okay with where you are and you decide to be there, and you're not just conforming just so that you can have peace around you and not cause a problem, not be a problem. That it's okay. It might be a little difficult. Maybe people will talk about you. Maybe people will make videos about you. But what's important is that you are where you should be. And to those people who go around with the sledgehammer in the name of Christian zeal and go smashing on people, just like in the South, we have a phrase that goes, bless her heart. And it's basically a coverall for gossip. This person does this and this and this and they're bad at, well, bless her heart. It's almost like a way to make yourself feel okay after you just said so much gossip, so much slander. Let's not be like that. Let's actually say what the experiences were. Let's actually say how we feel. And then we can deal with it. The first step is to see the truth and reality. The second is to act upon it. And that's what I want. I want to promote that as much as possible. So thanks for stopping by and listening to my words. I hope that you are able to subscribe, to comment. I read all the comments, to like the video, share it, tell your friends, tell people that maybe are in this type of situation. It's an interesting story, if nothing else. And also follow my other social medias that I will leave down below. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's and hopefully see you next time. Thank you. Finally, it's over.